Lois, I've missed you. We have not done a live together in a little bit.
It's been a while, but I understand you have to be in other places. I have to wait my turn.
I know. You didn't get to fly across the pond with me to the United Kingdom for Bet, sadly, but I'm excited to be back with you today and picking up where we left off.
Absolutely. I'm glad I got to see you in Austin at TCA though. And we talked to a lot of teachers in Austin that were sad that something was not going to be available anymore. So I'm glad you have solutions for them.
That's right. I mean, who doesn't love Jamboard? I know it was one of a go-to tool for me when I was in the classroom too. Loved it, and so it is sad to see it go. But the really exciting thing is that Lumio has a great alternative in our whole class whiteboard. And what I love too is with our whole class whiteboard, we can use that in Lumio, but we can also layer in some of the other amazing features that are available and built into Lumio too, like those game-based activities and whatnot. So it really allows us to take that same Jamboard feel, but even layer more amazing things into our lessons, which is awesome.
Absolutely.
So, whole class whiteboard. If you like Jamboard, you're going to love the flexibility of our whole class whiteboard. There's lots of things that we can do. So first off is like, where do we get started? So one of the great things is we can start with content we already have. So we can import, if you have a great graphic organizer or a great template that you've created before that maybe you used with Jamboard, you could pull that template in and then add those movable pieces right inside of Lumio. And Lumio is meant to be something that students can drag and drop. We have a great feature called the infinite cloner, which allows us to make any job object infinite, have an infinite number of those, which is exciting. So whether it's Post-it notes or student names or emojis, just everything, we can pull them in. The other thing we can do is we can create our template right inside of Lumio itself. There's some great page templates we have, great graphic organizers that already exist that we can leverage and use too with that Jamboard feel, that whole class whiteboard. And then with any page that we pull in, whether we import it, whether we find it inside of Lumio, we can convert those pages into one of three activities. So we can make an individual handout. Every student has their own copy. We can do a group workspace where we put students into smaller teams, and then we can benefit from that whole class whiteboard, which really gives you more of that Jamboard feeling where all of your students are in the same space together, which I love. So I just went and I found put together a few templates, things that I've seen other teachers use, things that I've used in my classroom. I built these templates in Canva, but you could build them in Google Slides. You could build them directly inside of Lumio as well. As I said, we have some great graphic organizers that are already built, so you can just layer in and do everything right within here. This is an example of like a thumbs up, thumbs down, right? So you can have your students respond to a question, write their name to vote, depending on what your goal is. And you'll notice that right now, if you try and move this Post-it note, it's not going to move for you because right now I have this page on view only. I will have you guys participate in just a moment, but what's really great is I can just drag and drop and I can start clicking. I can double click on that text box and I can begin typing. So it's really a nice, easy thing for our students to be able to do is just drag and drop and begin typing. So this is a really simple example I could have built right in Lumio with just a blank page and grabbing these two images. You can search for images straight within Lumio, being safe search, or you can even add images that you have saved on your device. So another example, this is always one I like to do in my classroom, is having students reflect on how confident they are in their learning. So are you blue skies, like you're getting it, you're feeling like very confident in what you're doing? Are you cloudy? You get it, but you still have a few questions, or are you someone that's, it's kind of stormy. You're really struggling a little bit and need some specific help. So in fact, my daughter just took at college, she just took her anatomy and physiology exam. And so I messaged her and said, clear skies, cloudy, or stormy. So we use that just as conversations in our house. And I love that we can do this with students too. Again, each of these are infinitely cloned. So a student can just drag up, they can click in here and begin typing what they need help with. I need help working through a sample problem. So it's a very easy thing for our students to pick up and go. and they can drag up more than one. So we can have our students all in the same space working and sharing ideas, which is great.
And I love that we have the one question I still have is, because I don't know about you, Casey, but I'm that girl that always has a question just because I'm so curious. So having a space to put those questions without interrupting is nice.
Exactly. This is a great way to do it. And then the teacher can reflect too at the end of the day and really see if what she sees coming from the student's work matches what she sees listed here as well. So let's get in an example. And so you guys can see what it's like live. So this is a great one to do with students too. Pros and cons, great way to have students be more critical thinkers. So I have a question for you guys today. And if you want to join my live right now, you can go to hellosmart.com and enter my class ID 11311. It is scrolling along the bottom of the screen as well. So hellosmart.com. Enter class ID 11311. So we're going to do the pros and cons of using technology in our classrooms. So in order for you to be able to drag and drop and type, I have to convert this to an activity. I could have done this in editing mode, and I'll show you that in just a moment, but I can also do it on the fly. I love doing it on the fly because my students have to listen to me before they just start dragging, dropping, and moving so I can get my directions out first. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to think about pros and cons for using technology in the classroom. And you'll drag a green down for the pro, an orange down for the con. These are infinitely cloned, so you can have many, many different ideas and contributions. So I'm going to make it a whole class whiteboard. And you'll notice right away that you can start to drag and drop and share your ideas. So I'm going to drag one down. You'll notice that as people drag and drop, I can actually see Lois is the one that's working this one, preparation for life in the real world. You can see as I click the drop down arrow that the teacher contributed this content as well. So I can see by clicking the down arrow who's contributing what content. So I see Marit is working on this one over here. I can see that I have Lois over here. Enhanced learning experience. I love it. So you can see as people pull this content down and begin adding ideas, we can also see as a teacher who's contributing. So I can see Tanya said improved engagement. So it's great that we can have these sticky notes that students can be moving, dragging, and dropping and using them in lots of different ways, which is, I think, really powerful. Something else you might notice is on the teacher side, in the top corner, I have something called Everyone Can Edit, and it's a toggle. So I can always pause contributions. So if I toggle this off, people are no longer able to drag, drop, type. So if I want to pause contributions and have a conversation with my students, I can, and then I can always toggle back on to give them the power to continue working. So pretty easy. What do you think about this, Lois? Would you do an activity like this in your classroom?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's always an opportunity to give students a chance to provide their opinions on things, and lots of times those are our education moments as well too, right? We may have some ideas about things that aren't true.
Absolutely. So let's take a look at what it looks like from the teacher side. If I want to create a more interactive Jamboard-like activity. So right here is a template that I've created, but I want to use this sort of as a continuum for my students to actually interact and kind of place themselves somewhere on this continuum. So I'm going to actually edit this lesson for a moment so I can show you how I can go about doing this. So there's a couple of things that I can do to add that interactivity. When I'm in editing mode, you'll notice along the top, I have some different options here. So one option I could do is I could come and grab like a circle, and I could have this circle infinitely clone. Let's make it a different color. I could have this circle infinitely cloned, and my students could have to drag this circle up somewhere along the continuum. So I could do something like that if I wanted to. And again, all I would do to infinitely clone it is click the down arrow, and I can choose infinite cloner, which is really, really nice how fast and easy I can do that. I could also, instead of doing a circle like that, I can actually click on this image button and I could search for a Post-it note. So I'm going to do that really quickly. And I'm just going to grab this one. I can resize, of course. What's great here is you saw that you were able to add text really easily onto your Post-it notes that I used with you guys earlier. The way that I would do that is I would click on this A and click somewhere on my screen, and I would click type here, or I'd give them a prompt that I want them to respond to, like share one challenge you had, something along those lines. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag it and drop it right on top of that Post-it note. And now I'm going to click both objects, and I can, I'm going to click on both objects, and then I can group them. So now that they're grouped, I can infinitely clone them. So my students would be able to drag and drop their Post-it notes somewhere on the continuum, depending on where they feel most, whether they feel like they've really got it or whether they're confused. Or if I wanted to do the dot option, I could also have my students kind of drag their dots somewhere along the continuum. So you can do any of those options, which is great. And then to make this something that, I'm going to delete those really quickly, to make this something that my students can interact with, I can do it on the fly like I did in front of you, or you'll notice this magic wand right here. So instead of standing at that copy machine and hoping it's going to keep working by the time you get to the front of the line, you can use this magic wand, and we can make it an individual handout, a group workspace, or in this case, I want to take advantage of that whole class whiteboard. So I'm going to choose that. And now it is ready for us to go. So when I hit finish editing, you'll notice that you are pulled into this page, and now you could choose to use either that dot or that Post-it note to drag and drop and share where you are on the continuum, which is pretty amazing. Now, one other thing I wanted to show really quickly, I know we're at the end of our time, but I did want to pull your attention to the fact that we can use whole class whiteboard on the fly. So for example, I just realized tomorrow's Valentine's Day. So if I wanted to do a quick, what's your favorite Valentine's Day candy? If I click on this plus button over here and click whole class whiteboard, I instantly have a whole class whiteboard that's open and available for my students. And so now they could add pictures, or they could type what their favorite Valentine's Day candy is. I can do that whole class whiteboard on the fly, even if I didn't originally have it planned in my lesson, which I think is always a good thing. Anything you can do on the fly is fantastic.
For sure.
Well, I know, like I said, we're at the end of our time, but I wanted to just remind you that this month's Lumio challenge is all about continuing your learning. So I hope that you will check out one of our Go Lumio webinars. We have a bunch planned. In fact, we have a great one on PhET and math tomorrow. So hopefully you'll go to our Go Lumio webinar page and register for one of our webinars. And then to participate in the Lumio challenge, just share one new idea that you want to use in your classroom, or you want to share with other educators, to hashtag Lumio challenge on any social channel, and you will be entered to win a gift card. We always give gift cards for people participating in our monthly challenges. So I hope to see some of the things you guys take away from our webinars this month.
That's awesome. And Casey, where can people find other templates that are ready-made for them?
Oh, thanks so much. Yeah, absolutely. One of the best, my favorite categories in the Lumio library is actually our graphic organizers category. There are so many different available customizable graphic organizers that you can pull in and use with your students. They make for some great Jamboard-like activities using that whole class whiteboard feature.
Lots of great resources. I always find something rather quickly with all the templates that are available.
Me too. Me too. Well, I'm excited to see what kind of how people use this whole class whiteboard. I sure hope you'll share some of the different templates that you guys create and use on our social channels at Lumio Social. I'm always looking for new ideas and ways I can use whole class whiteboard. So I'd love to be inspired by some of the ideas that you have as well.
Absolutely. Sharing is caring. And we look forward to seeing you next time for our Lumio Live.